His brother died.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's where he's at.
So. Thank you.
Okay, welcome to the Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. We're blessed to have Father's House with us today. Drake will start with invocation.
Hallelujah. This from Psalm 5. In the morning, O Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning, I lay my request before you and wait in expectation. By your great mercy, I will come into your house in reverence. Will I bow down toward your holy temple? Lead on, O Lord, in your righteousness. Because of my enemies, make straight your way before me. For surely, O Lord, you bless the righteous. You surround them with your favor as with a shield. Lord God Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, maker of us, and the one who holds this building up and holds this town together. Lord, we have taken a hit this spring, and we've lost some of our citizens, our friends, our families. But Lord, you are strong, and we can be strong in you. We shall rise, we shall press on, and we pray that the hearts of godly men would be the ones who steer this town aright and take us into our destiny and our future. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. For those that can join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of
the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Kind of go through what we have going today. Obviously, you can see Commissioner Farrell is out today on a family matter. Today, we do have a public hearing at 9:30. We have a public hearing at 9:45, and then we have a work session at 10 a.m. So we'll work through the agenda. Entertain a motion for approval of minutes of June 29th and 30th.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Any questions, comments, anything on those? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Consent agenda, I'll run down through this. We have call for hearing. Taos County budget to increase appropriations and additional expenses and recognize additional revenues. We do this periodically through the year. We have brought probably about 3 more times this year. We'll reconcile that, and this is the first of those 3. That hearing will be August 11th, 2026 at 9:30. Contracts, awards, agreements, bids. We awarded the contract with Construction Head Inc., DBA Pavement Surface Control for the countywide pavement striping. It's a 2-year contract, $938,165.50. Event center and some tax and lodging funds agreement with Mount St. Helens Motorcycle Club to support some infrastructure improvements. I saw them out there paving yesterday, actually. Total grant amount is $55,000. That's from the lodging tax fund. Public Works designation of applicant's agent resolution to allow county engineer to sign for the Washington Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Program grant. We applied for this last year and just missed the cut, so this is a reapplication. This is on looking at alternatives for Westover and Lomar drives. We have flooding issues. Westover and Lomar are, if you're headed towards Lexington and you turn left on Nevada, you go under, well, they don't have the train overpass there anymore. It was tore out, but Westover and that is just past that, and that we have some flooding issues in there. Correspondence, first 2 are from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to Pacific Power on the dams, the Merwins and Swift. Letter from Michael Dover, Kelly Dryer and Warren LLP regarding Astound Broadband LLC's proposed pro forma change of control. Last week, we had vouchers in the amount of $1,095,093.50. That's consent. Questions, comments on consent? Okay, seeing none, I think you're it today.
I am. Make a motion to approve consent agenda as presented by staff.
Okay, we have a motion to approve consent agenda. Last call. You have a question, Flo? Come on up.
Okay, concerning the correspondence, the B, Federal Energy Regulations Commission notice stated regarding the dam safety inspection. Are we going to be able to have the results of their inspection?
We get copies of every correspondence between this commission and Pacific Power that runs the dam. So anything that they do with them up there, we do get copies of it, yes.
Okay, and then you'll be giving the results of the copies, you'll be telling all of us what the results were of their inspection.
Well, I'll do the best I can. It's not an agreement between us and this commission or the dams. We have nothing to do with it. They just give us copies of their work.
Oh,
The dams are regulated by this Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and they send us copies of everything they do. And whatever they give us, we'll have a deal of it, and it's always public record. You're more than welcome to look at it.
okay, but we have to dig it up and look at it then, right?
Well, if we saw anything in here, like, I think some last year, there was something that was broken and had to be fixed, and I can't remember what it was. And we talked about that they were in the process of fixing that. So I think the answer to your question is most assuredly going to be yes. If they do the inspection and they say, okay, you have a crack here and it needs to be fixed, it'll come out in a letter and it'll say you have to do this, and we'll get a copy of that.
Okay, well, I know that all of our dams are older. And it would be, I mean, very beneficial, I think, for all of us to know how they're aging and what's happening to them so that any information that any reference we have to Washington DC about any of our worries about water problems coming from the mountain or any earthquake, we'll have an update so that we know how we're standing. Our dams aren't going to help if we have a problem, but how bad are they going to be? They're old enough to totally give away if we have a problem, an earthquake or whatever, how are they standing? Do they need updating? We need to know that. And I know you have it printed out, but I'd sure like to have a public just say, hey, everything's fine. And we've had it checked and everything is A-okay. It would make us feel better.
So I think we get these probably at least every other week. They're always inspecting something on those dams. And I'll speak for myself with regards to when I go through and read them. If there's anything that I see that is material like, oh, this is an issue, I think we would bring that up. But they're typically just saying we inspected it, everything's fine, no issue. So these are mainly updates. But if there was anything that was substantial to say, hey, this is a problem, I think we would definitely bring that up.
You bring it up. Okay. I just would like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, anything, other questions? Okay, we have a motion, so I'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One motion item, Public Works.
Good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. The motion item that we have in front of you today is to the bid award for the Burma Road, Tootle Park Road Bypass Project. These bids were opened on July 2nd, so last Wednesday. We received 11 bidders. The low bidder was for $1,234,000, which is below the engineer's estimate. And we've checked all of their paperwork, and they are a responsive bidder, and that low bidder was Tapani Inc. out of Battleground.
And the reason for that it was so much lower than the engineer's estimate was due to the travel expense wasn't there, correct?
This one, they were just, every item, they were consistently lower than what the engineer's estimate was. So this is a company that does a lot of large earth moving contracts.
They're up in Castle Rock right now. They're up in Winlock, so I think they probably have some resources already in the area.
Yeah.
Could you, yesterday we had a conversation and Commissioner Rader asked, this isn't anything we put in there. All this is caused because of Phil that Army Corps and stuff put in there, and why they don't have some responsibility on that. And I know when it first happened, we had that discussion, but I think it's good information to have what you shared yesterday.
Sure.
It's
So
why we kind of went down this road.
we went down this road about 3 years ago, so prior to Commissioner Rader joining the commission. We had a meeting out on site with the Army Corps of Engineers, and they do have programs that pay for emergency projects, but their programs pay for fixes to critical infrastructure. If during an alternatives analysis, it comes out as the most cost effective. So when looking at the project out there, it's quite a large cliff, about 40 feet. The estimate of doing a wall or a rock buttress in that location is anywhere from $3 to $5 million, not including the cost for your designing, your permitting. And because of its location, permitting could take 2 to 5 years, depending on the level of EIS that you would be required to perform. And that estimate that I have is for something that may or may not work. So based on their discussion of what they could do, and if we would look at alternatives, relocating the road into a different location would be an alternative you look at. And as you just heard, it is quite a bit cheaper than repairing it in place. So that was why the decision was made to go this route.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at is we're actually looking at two separate issues. The one issue is the replacement of the road, which is what the Army Corps is saying they will handle. The other issue is the erosion of the bank, which is what they're saying they're not going to have anything to do with.
Correct. The erosion of the bank was not the only reason the erosion of the bank would be addressed was because it was it was impacting infrastructure.
So do we know, it looks to me like the river is just going back to its original flow. There's a point that comes out of a rock point that comes out. Do we know how much further that rock point goes in as it eats away that bank before the erosion is going to stop? Do we have any idea?
We do not have a definitive. We do know that in the past there was a lake in that area with an outlet in that area. So I don't know how far back. I don't know if that rock turns to parallel or where it turns to parallel the Tootle River itself.
Ron?
Yeah. Good morning, Commissioners. First question is, who is paying the $1 million for this project?
It's the county.
It is all Columbus County.
Yeah.
Okay, so secondly, it appears that the Corps of Engineers is highly engaged, involved with us in this whole event. Number one, the fill material that was placed there originally that's eroding. And secondly, the meandering of the stream that, of course, the primary bed has been filled with sediment already, which causes the meandering. So in essence, the Corps of Engineers is, I'll use the word incriminated with us in two fashions on this. So how are they helping us?
I don't see any help on this particular project.
Okay,
Ron, to be honest with you, they haven't. They've said they've had programs, but we don't think it's going to apply because of this and this, and they haven't been willing to help it at all. Let me take it back. They've said they'd help us with a little engineering if we wanted to try the rock thing, but that is, at the time, it was a huge expense, and to get to permit time, we didn't think I don't think that road will last another 2-3 years, and you just can't people have to have a way out of their homes.
right, okay.
But we're not getting any help from the Army
Okay.
Corps.
So it seems like this element is a piece of the following discussion at 10 o'clock on the elements of impact and safety regarding our community and continued erosion, continued sediment, et cetera, that we'll be seeing, that we've seen for 40 years, correct?
Yeah, and this is just, if you go up the Cowlitz, you get up behind Green Acres, they did some stuff to try and stop erosion there. If you go on Pleasant Hill, they did some stuff to stop there. And it's not just hey, we have this one spot. It's not just we have this one spot. We have spots all over. We're seeing the old landfill in Castle Rock. When the water gets high enough, it's eating into that and bringing some of that debris out of there. So it's pretty extensive, really.
Right.
And the bigger point that you're talking about, Ron, is one that we are going to be discussing at 10 o'clock. And that is that the Army Corps came in and they did what they did with very little input from the communities, the business, the stakeholders here locally. And they have washed their hands of a lot of the actions that they have taken. And it's just like left for us to deal with. And that's the topic of the conversation that we're going to have is we want local control over some of this stuff. Now we need to have a say in what's going on because we're the ones that are dealing with the aftermath of their decisions and them not taking any ownership of what's going on and helping us in any way. Our last conversation with the Corps, they seemed receptive to help in certain areas with regards to the river, but not LT1 in particular. They gave us some possible grant opportunities that might help us with the restoration of the bank, but it sounds like that it's not gonna work. So to your point, we're tired of not having a say in what happens in our community and just left with whatever they want to do. And then we're left with the aftermath.
That's the observation of me and the community. So I expect that the 10 o'clock meeting will bring this up again. We have for the 40 years not had really much attention to this, and we're not going to get any without our senators and our funding coming from the federal government. And we, little old Cowlitz County, don't have much impact on that without our senators and our representatives standing up and getting visible. That perception. So we'll continue the discussion at 10. Thank you.
I'm Kenny Shea again. I live on right where the bank's Benner Road. Lost probably half acre or more of my property on the other side of the road. And I keep seeing, this talking about the river erosion. The river is not doing this. Have they not checked to see that? Even the summertime, the bank is going away. It has nothing to do with the river. It has to do with the Army Corps of Engineers dumping all this crap on that lake with a live spring. If you go down and sit and look where the bank is eroded, about 7 feet down from the top, there's a stream of water coming out 24/7. If it rains, probably a little bit more. Whatever's feeding that spring is feeding the bank erosion. So my concern is we build this road around the other way, but the bank is still eroding. Nothing's gonna stop it. So in my opinion, we're wasting whatever we're spending on this road, we're wasting that money. Because the bank's still gonna erode and eventually it's gonna get to the road they're rebuilding. It might be 10 years down the road. I've been at my house for 9 years and nothing happened in the first 4 years I was there. And a little bit over the, couple of years. And since Christmas, I've lost 40 feet from the road out to the river. And it's, to me, the real concern of what's causing it has not been, talked about. And it really concerns me that, I could possibly lose my house, lose my property, lose my neighbors. I mean, we're looking at the wrong issue, and the Corps of Engineers should be held accountable because they're the one that dumped the crap out there. I don't know if they surveyed it or what they did, but to dump it on a live spring and then allow houses to be built on that is ridiculous.
I agree with your sentiment, sir.
And I would like some control on the name, the Sediment Road. I hope you will not name it that, because we're not the crap. That's what sediment means to me. The dredgings of the river. That's not what that housing area is at, should be called. Thanks.
Any other comments, questions on this?
I'll just say it. I really think that they need to really, really check, like, this gentleman is totally right. I used to ride my horses up in that area. There's underground streams up in that area that you have no idea. I've got my horse stuck in them, had to dig her out. Because, I mean, the land looked great until you rode over it, then she just went on down. But it's just not stable land, and before they put the road in, to make sure that they test for this, and it's down farther. I mean, a lot of it's like 20 foot down, and then it comes up. It makes these little lakes in the winter. I mean, it's from the river. It's like an underwash. I'm not using the right terminology. I know that, but it's down from the river, and it's down. It's far, and then when there are problems, it rises up. It's kind of like quicksand in a way in certain areas. If you've ridden up by Toutle River, like the 3200 line, that used to be all where, the dredge spoils was. It used to be quicksand. You couldn't ride there. You'd sink a horse in a heartbeat. But actually, this is older, so it doesn't look like it because there's vegetation on there. There's rocks. I mean, you think it's totally solid, but it's not, because down farther, you still have all that water running. And I totally know what this gentleman's doing, because this is years of riding my horses up in that area. It's very tricky land. I just hope that, they do what they call it, seismic, where they put sound down into the ground to see if there's water. I think they'd be really surprised. I'm just saying, be careful, because it's tricky.
We don't disagree with anything that's been said here. We know that there's a spring under there. We know that Army Corps put it over there, but it's really two different problems. That's a problem we continue to beef at Army Corps to try and fix. But the problem we're trying to solve is how do I get people out if that goes away? I got people stuck in there. So I have to build them something to get them out of there. How much do you want us to spend on a bridge? We're trying to do it, we know it's all out of our pocket, and we're trying to do it for the most reasonable cost for the people of this county that we can. And this road is the one, and Weyerhaeuser's been good enough to give us easement to come across through there and hook us into Burma. But we all get that it's not going to cure the problem, because we know that they put all this stuff over the stream, but that's an issue that we have to work through the feds, and that's not an issue that any of us can sign on paper and solve. If we could, we would.
Can the county not sue the Corps of Engineers?
Suing the federal government is always a option, I don't know. Yeah, it's your guys' money. I don't know how much you want to spend on going after the feds for that, but
To the chairman's point, we're in a situation now to where we have to react to the Army Corps' decision-making in the past. And the reaction, the course that we're taking is making sure that our citizens are gonna be safe. If that road goes out and there's a fire in one of the homes and we can't get to it, that's on us. So we're having to make this decision to ensure the safety of our citizens that are there. The other issue is one that we will continue to, and I don't know, as we continue to have these meetings with local leadership, it may get to that point to where we do go after the Army Corps for certain issues, but right now we're taking the steps that we're taking to hopefully get some sort of cooperation with the Corps.
I think it's a key point on the design, and our engineers can just review it. If anywhere you find that you have water, a spring or whatever underneath, we use French drains, we do other things without the big expense of a bridge. So if they find water, they've got to relieve it or it's going to want and take it out. So that's an awareness. I hope our engineers are reviewing the excavation in the project and what goes in. And if you find water, you have to handle it or water will take care of the problem itself in a way that we don't like.
yeah. A portion of it is going to remain gravel just because we have some concerns about that portion that we want to monitor and see how it's doing. Most of it will be paved. I don't know how long the unpaved will be, but
So we're going to be paving the first 650 feet, and then we're leaving the next 400 or 500 feet, 600 feet unpaved. And then the tie-in will be paved at the very end. And we'll see how long it takes for settling to stabilize. So in the future, next summer or 2 summers from now, potentially 3, if it's still settling, we will repave that. But we will maintain that gravel with our crews and adding rock as needed.
one of the comments is just what this gentleman said, we're considering legal action against U.S. Army Corps for the results of their actions. I think it's always on the table. There's more than just there's a lot, there's cities, everybody's impacted, so we don't have to kind of get together on that, but. Any other questions on this particular item? Okay. I don't see any hands, so we had a motion, so we'll just call for the vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We're pretty close. We'll give it a minute and then head into the public hearing. Okay, when we head into the public hearing, this is on amending a section of the code.
Yes, good morning. This is the public hearing, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. This is the public hearing to amend Chapter 1515.010, which is the discharge pre-treatment ordinance. This applies to the area of the county that we provide sewer to, that then discharges to the Three Rivers Regional Wastewater Authority. So this is mainly it's exclusively down in the industrial area of Longview. So this update will replace the code that was adopted in 2012 and put a new pretreatment policy in place. This policy protects the terroir equipment, microbial processes, and the staff from harmful discharges. This pretreatment policy applies to commercial and industrial users such as machine shops, restaurants, auto shops, and it requires routine maintenance of equipment and things like grease traps that keep undesirable items out of the sewage flow. All of the other entities, Beacon Hill, Longview, and Kelso, have already adopted this update. The changes to this pretreatment were some housekeeping items, which were updating titles and things of that nature. The big things that impact the users is they're updating the discharge limits on your permits. So the existing limits are fixed instantaneous numbers. So the first one's for biochemical oxygen demand, then total suspended solids and ammonia. The update, based on a headwork study, has changed it to a daily maximum and a monthly average that goes along with the MPDS permits. So for example, for your total suspended solids, let's say you take 4 samples during the month and you come back with 275, 450, 300, and 325. Because that average is less than the 350, you will not be in violation of your permit because your daily maximum is still below the 455 level. Currently, if you had that sampling regime, you would be considered in violation of your permits. So this updates it to something that is more reasonable for the users to comply with. The other items that are addressed in the pretreatment program, the added of volatile organic chemicals. These limits are based on they call them PELs, permissible exposure limits in gas to employees. So these were developed using what level within the sewage could cause a gaseous release. And those things are like butane. There's a whole long list of items that are on that list. This policy also covers metals and oil and grease, but those items are not changing as part of this update. So the request today is to open the public hearing and update the new or repeal the old ordinance and adopt the new ordinance, which adopts by reference the new pretreatment policy.
Where this touches the county is basically our leachate that we send from the landfill. Do we have stuff from our shops or anything that go
No,
over there?
none of our shops go down there. We provide sewage service on International Way and East Mill Road. So we have 2 roads in the industrial area that we provide sewage service to, and then our leachate.
And then our leachate. And where we currently operate, these new figures, we're still operating within those boundaries.
Yes, but being able to hit a maximum and still hit the average is beneficial to the customers. And the big customers are people like the leachate, Foster Farms, some of the industries down in the port are the big users that those will impact.
Yeah. the only place I'm going is I think we're operating within specs now. We don't see a purchase of additional equipment or anything like that, that would add expense.
So we are currently operating just outside of our permit, and we're doing a study to see what we need to do.
To
But
get us
this,
inside?
to get us just inside, because our BOD and our is running high. So we're trying to determine.
Is this from the landfill?
This is from the landfill at the leachate. So this does not impact, this actually gives us a little more wiggle room with our final solution if we can keep the monthly average and then just have a few that go over. But this is something that we were already addressing, that this policy will not change what we're doing.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions up here? Okay, I'll open for public comment if you have any. Check online real quick. Seeing none, we'll close public comment and we'll just entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the ordinance to amend section 1515.010 of chapter 15 of the Cowlitz County Code for the Three Rivers Regional Wastewater Authority.
We have a motion to approve. We've already opened it up for public comment, so we'll go straight to the vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next public hearing will be at 9:45, so we do have a couple minutes. If you, any public comments, I'm more than happy to take them on anything, or we can just recess for a couple minutes and give you a break. Okay, let's just recess till 9:45 and then we'll open up the next public hearing. Okay, bring this out of recess. We're at 9:45. We'll head into the next public hearing. Public Works is on that one too.
Good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer again. The second public hearing is to establish a new roadway that will run from Burma Road to Tootle Park Road. The need for this roadway is, as you can see in this picture, the Tootle River bank is eroding towards Tootle River Road, Tootle Park Road. This erosion we've lost more than 45 feet from the roadway to the old river. This road services 3 homes, the Cowlitz Public Shooting Range and county-owned property commonly referred to as LT1. If this road continues to go, we will lose access to all of them. We have currently shut this road down to 1-lane traffic based on geotechnical engineer's recommendation. So the decision to move to a relocated road was due to permitting cost and longevity of a repair at this location. And we were estimating $3 to $5 million with potential of 2 to 5 years permitting and an unknown longevity. Due to the complex nature of this site, we have the river pushing in, causing erosion, and then there are seeps coming out of that bank. So it would be a very complicated, geotechnical, extensive, and probably would require a fix quite beyond the spot location. So our request today is to adopt the order of establishment resolution establish a name as part of this action. This will allow for the construction of the roadway, and upon construction and completion and certification from the county engineer, it will be added to the official county road log. So the name that was originally floated out to the neighbors and is on the original documentations for this is Sediment Road. Some other names that have been floated are Beaver Lake Road, because that's what this area once was called, Burma Bypass Road, Sediment Ridge, and Stone Road. So those are open for discussion, but my request is to adopt the resolution or with the order of establishment and set a name.
You have this?
I do have this.
It's not on the,
I unfortunately forgot to email it to Kelly prior to leaving the office, but if those in the audience are interested.
it really kind of gives you a relation as to where the problem is and where this other one
Yes.
comes in.
So I have this drawing that's an aerial map that you can, if anybody's interested, they can come and look. It shows a clouded area where the damage is occurring, and then a penciled in red line that's approximately where the new roadway will be constructed. This roadway is going to run in between two private properties at the beginning, the Warehouser property and then a community neighbor, and then it'll curve down onto the county's properties and tie back into the existing access road to the gun range, and we will then reconnect those private property driveways at the end.
And the names again that we, you had sediment, did you say Beaver Lake?
Beaver Lake, because if you look at the historic documents, that's what it was called in that area. Sediment Ridge, Stone Road, Burma Bypass. So we're really hoping for input for the three property owners, since they are the ones that have to live with the name. And I never knew it was so hard to name a road.
And for anything other than sediment. I've given them at least a dozen decent names, and every time he goes, well, we're kind of sticking with, it's like they don't want to hear me. You know, I've talked to my neighbor and she has health problems, so she couldn't be here today, but the road, that name just sucks.
Do you have any suggestions for us currently right now?
Two River Parkspur, Beaver Creek's Fund, or Beaver whatever pond.
Beaver
I
Lake.
mean, any of those, anything.
Beaver
I thought Kenny Road South would be good. Kenny and RS, that's my name initials.
Oh. So Beaver Lake or Stone Road is any one of those?
What's the Beaver Pond? Is that what you guys are talking about?
Beaver Lake.
Yeah, maybe because it's eventually gonna come back out and probably take care of most of the problem.
And we can make that change today? Or
Yes,
We could
yeah.
name it
in-
whatever. Okay.
Put that in the order establishment.
Okay.
And you said that's what the name of the lake that was there previously used to be called?
Yes, it used to be called that prior to the eruption in the 80s.
Yeah. Any other questions up here? Let me open this up real quick for you, Ron. Okay, we'll open up public comments. Go ahead.
Right, well, kind of a sarcastic comment, we could call it county tax lane. In that this land, now this is a simplified perspective dating back to 1980, of course, and all of the mud and flow out there. So the Corps of Engineers created a bunch of, let's call it developable land when they put all this fill in. The county has allowed building and all kinds of development out there, and the value of that land appreciated significantly as people built out there. But now the entire county absorbs the costs of the road and the things that we're doing, along with the appreciation of the land. So it would be very interesting to know what the taxing value of all of this land created on all this fill. It goes up to Nevada Lane again. That Nevada basically was blocked off by the fill, et cetera, and these drain areas. So there's a perspective representing county and taxes and development, et cetera. In many places, they would not have allowed building out there because it was susceptible to flooding or susceptible to erosion. Our county allowed, or whoever of high power allowed development, allowed the increase in assessment value, and there is a lot of building and stuff out there. So anyway, I'm just being facetious, but at the same time, recognizing development activity.
Yeah.
Is there a better map of where the actual road's gonna, I mean, this shows up by the gun range, but doesn't show where it's gonna go. How's it gonna get to me? I'm in the worst position.
So right now, we are still working on the finite design, and we're going to work with you on how we're reconnecting your driveways down at the end of the road near the cul-de-sac. And that we will be, the engineer is currently working on that. We wanted to get this started, and it will be completed as part of this project. But we will be working with yourself and the neighbors.
I'm getting people, you're gonna need to be at a mic. I'm getting people that can't hear you and they're asking,
Where-
sorry.
The new road is servicing just the gun range and 3 properties?
Correct.
So not the property right beside me,
Not at this time. No.
65? 'Cause I share a driveway with them, so
Okay.
on that side of my house. I have a circular driveway. I never use the one side, so if you just look at it, you wouldn't know there's a driveway there.
And that's probably why we didn't realize there was a driveway there, but we will work with with you guys to get you reconnected. That the engineer working on this project and Paul Galley, our surveyor, who you've been had a lot of contact with, will be working with you guys
Okay.
in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Any other on this? If we approve this, do we need to, because under the current resolution, you have it as, I don't know, the current resolution designates the name.
Let me look at this real quick.
So
I
if,
believe it mentions it in there once, so we would have to move to amend it. Let me see. Going to beginning. Yes, towards the end of the second page, it says, said county shall be a county road, same be and is hereby named and designated. It says sediment road, so we would have to amend the resolution as part of the motion to be the Beaver Lake.
okay, so if we do a motion on this, amendment would be to change it from sediment to Beaver
Beaver
Lake.
Lake, yes.
Okay. Okay, any other? Okay, I'll close the public comment parts and entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the order to establish the name of road, north end of Burma Road, to reconnect the entrance of the county gun range and residence on Tootle Park Road, and amend the motion to change the name from Sediment Road to Beaver Lake Road.
Okay. So we have a motion. We've already gone through public comment, so we'll just put it to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you. I will get a amended version of the resolution up for y'all to sign.
okay. So I have about 5 minutes before 10. If there's anything other of substance you want to chat about, or we'll just hang out for a bit. Okay, just recess for. Okay, we'll come out of recess and head into our last public hearing today on not public hearings, sorry, a work session on Mount St. Helens. I see Bill Fashing here, I see Senator Wilson, and I see the port here, so I don't know who's leading this. Bill, is that you? Sure.
I don't know if there's a bunch of reverb on this microphone, so bear with me. I'll try to, maybe that'll help. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Bill Fashing, Director of the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Council of Governments. I've been working on Spirit Lake, Mount St. Helens, flood risk, and all kinds of other issues for the last few years. We've had some discussion about trying to pull together a legislative agenda, federal legislative ask on issues related to life safety downstream from Spirit Lake. We've had lots of issues about flood prevention, a variety of things through projects, the need for geomorphic studies and all kinds of wonderful things out there. So we have a draft community priorities document. We did invite City of Longview, Castle Rock, Kelso, the Port of Longview, Diking districts here today on short notice, but we do have the port representatives here, so I do appreciate that, them being here. All of the agencies that I mentioned have received a copy of the document that I think you all have as well. At this point, I've gotten general confirmation that the direction is good. I have one change on item 6 under the first category. We mentioned hydrologic assessment. It really should have been geomorphic assessment. I'm learning things as we go. So little details and technical things maybe need to get revised in this draft moving forward. But I think we've got a strong start. I will point out that the Forest Service released today the draft record of decision on the Spirit Lake outflow project that we've all been working on and waiting for them to finish up that work. My understanding is that they are recommending moving forward with the pressurized tunnel option, or one of the pressurized tunnel options, which would lower the lake level to some degree, and I can't remember all the details, but it would not, from my perspective, dramatically decrease the catastrophic risk that the communities downstream face. That 20 feet or so might be enough to eliminate some of it, but I'm not sure it gets us where my thinking would like to be. But so we will have an opportunity over the next 45 days, if I remember right, to provide input on the record of decision to the Forest Service. And I would recommend that we find a way to all submit something, well, at least everyone who submitted initial comments to the Forest Service on this can submit additional comments at this point. So I know the COG submitted information. I don't know for sure whether the county submitted anything or not, but together, hopefully we can submit some response to Forest Service on that issue. That's in a nutshell, a little bit of background. I could probably ramble, but I'll stop there and hopefully that helps get some discussion off the ground. And Port Commissioner is here. He may want to add some details to it. Port staff is here. They may want to add some information as well. So, and I think Department of Ecology is probably online. I think Shauna was going to sit in on the meeting remotely, and there may be others remotely as well that I don't know about.
I think this kind of comes from, if I remember right, is we all felt we wanted the same talking points or the same requests moving forward, because you visit out east, we visit out east, and we want to be consistent with that. And we did have the Forest Service in, and they talked about that. And I think I'm pretty close to the same page with you, Bill. They can take.
I was hoping we were.
Yeah, I think they can take that whole catastrophic event out of the lake up there if it would take some time, but get it to more where it's more of a natural thing like the old lake was. And I get that that's some work, but tunnels are, we live in an area where you can have earthquakes and you can have some problems, and I just think we need to take that out, and I don't.
The other big factor that we included in the COGS comments on the record or for the project was to take an approach that lessens the long-term funding requirements moving forward with preserving life safety downstream. So having a tunnel, period, is going to be millions of dollars, at least periodically, to maintain that tunnel. So the whole concept of the tunnel, I think I've gotten over, and I just want a natural outflow. I want to see that somewhere down the road.
Well, and I totally agree with that. That's something we'll be spending on forever and ever, right? And the geologists, they know what they're talking about, tell us that the old Spirit Lake was formed by a volcano back then, and at some point in time it breached and it became part of the system, and it's lived that way forever until 1980. And so we'd like to kind of get it back to that if we can.
Bill, did they explain why that was the decision that they made of the two
I have
choices?
literally, the email came to my office at 9 o'clock this morning. I read the email. I've got a copy of it. They did not, to the best of my quick search, they did not release all of the details, and the actual record isn't on the website yet. So I'm sure by the end of today it will be posted, and I'll be burning up the printer this afternoon trying to print out what I can and learn from that. We do have a presentation at the collaborative meeting, which is Thursday morning at 10 o'clock from the consultant, and they'll spend 10-15 minutes talking about the record of decision and how they got there and what it means. So I'll know a lot more on Thursday after that presentation and a little bit of Q&A.
Okay. I think it might be worth our while if we can, Kelly, if we can put up the bullet points that we have. Do you have those available? No? Okay. Can I send them to you real quick?
Bill, is the plan when we get this in as a group, we all agree that these are the things we need to, we're going to like publicize this and put it out and let the community know what we're doing with this?
I think that makes sense. I don't know if we have a plan yet, and part of the discussion today might be to help formalize the approach. My thinking was that if we can get agreement on all of the details of this, take it to each of the agencies, get formal approval, have the mayor, chair sign off on this. We could publicize that here locally, send it off to the federal legislators, state legislators to that degree as well. Although it's fairly focused on federal issues versus state issues, but I think keeping the state delegation informed of the big picture issues is important.
Yeah, agreed.
And anyone from the public that wants to read it, they're welcome.
Yeah. Well, I think I keep picking on Commissioner Farrell a little bit, but I agree with him. He said he liked it better when you didn't know all this stuff, you know, and I agree with that. Once I watched the mountain go, and I never really thought about it until I sat in this chair and started learning some of the issues that we still deal with. And I'm going, I wish I didn't know all that. Now,
we do on the COGS website under projects or programs, Spirit Lake. We do have 4 fact sheets that I think tell a pretty sobering story about where we are and what it's cost us economically, what the flood risk are. And I think those are, anyone who's interested ought to go and read and have a sleepless night or two.
yeah.
And it's important to note that these points that we're showing here and that we've come up with, the local communities and the downstream people that have been affected, that leadership has approved this, gone through, read it, looked at it. And so we're all pretty much on board with what we're presenting here. And as we move forward as leaders within the communities that would be affected downstream, this is what we're saying what we want.
And there's always the possibility that you know, when we take it to a city council or something, someone may have a addition or change or concern, but based on the individuals that have reviewed it and provided me input at this point, everyone is comfortable with the wording and moving forward. But that doesn't mean that City of Longview, Kelso, or Castle Rock Council has
Yeah.
approved. Or the Port Commission either.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that this has been done, correct?
Yeah, in this form, we've had some minor wording. I think both Kelso and Longview have an abbreviated statement regarding the importance of flood prevention regarding Spirit Lake and the whole scenario in their current legislative packets. But it is not this detailed.
Yeah. I think it's important that we get more detail and really let these people know that, hey, we understand there's events, and I always describe it as if the 4-7s show up, you get a 4-7s event, it'd be catastrophic to this community. It'd just be, and it's things, and I'll just pick on Spirit Lake again. Something could happen and you could have a catastrophic event and that gives way and we're all covered in feet of stuff. And it's something that's preventable. It's something they can work and bring that down. You don't have that problem anymore. It's not an overnight solution, but we've been here 40+ years and nobody's even started the process. If you're dealing with and I get it that it's a small probability, but it's a fixable probability. So if you're dealing with Mount St. Helens, we can't fix Mount St. Helens. If she decides to go off, it's going to go off. But we can fix that lake. And we haven't done it for over 40 years. So
yeah, the USGS and others, United States Geological Service, sorry about using that an acronym, but has said the probability of failure of that earthen dam that's holding back Spirit Lake is pretty minimal, but you get a earthquake centered right there at the mountain, and I'm not sure I buy their science at this point.
yeah,
I mean, generally speaking, it's low probability, but you get the right series of events, as you said, and we're in a world of hurt downriver.
right.
I have so many issues
Yeah.
with what is going on. We just talked about this 30 minutes ago. They built a piece of property, for lack of a better term, over a lake. They put the spoils from the aftermath of the eruption over a lake that has a spring in it. And that was good enough for them. And now we're the ones dealing with it. I can't help but wonder how many things are like that are being done. Take the lake, for example. And I'm sure, Bill, you were on those calls and those webinars that we had leading up to all the information that they gathered on how they were going to make a decision for Spirit Lake. What I really got out of that was that they are putting the environment and the ecosystem and the fish in that lake above human lives. The priority to them is the fish in that lake and the trees around it and all that stuff, when the reality is if it goes, all that's a moot point anyway. And the fact that the human lives that will be taken because of that, that's the issue that I have with it. If you look at the actions that they have taken, human life is not at the top of that list. Fish, trees, wildlife, flora, and fauna are. When, like I said, if the mountain decides to do what it's going to do, all of that is gone, changed, and it's a moot point anyway. And so that's why what's frustrating to me is that it is up to us to advocate for ourselves and for our citizens to get something done. To your point about the long-term expense, putting in a tunnel, that's exactly what that is. We are going to have to deal with that again. in probably a decade. Money's gonna have to be spent to address it again, as opposed to a natural outlet, water raises, it goes into the river just like it had for who knows how many decades prior to us messing with it. We're not gonna bend Mother Nature to our will. It's not gonna happen. And the unfortunate part is that the politics involved in this are what is the priority. And that's what's very frustrating to me is, and we're doing what we can, and we're going to continue to do what we can to put pressure on the powers that be to make them recognize and realize that we're the ones dealing with it. But one of the things that I appreciate that you put in here that we haven't done in the past, particularly with the dredging of the Cowlitz, is maybe we can use their own strategy against them. And that is, okay, how is not dredging the Cowlitz affecting the fish, right? And at the mouth of the river. And so I know that isn't necessarily Spirit Lake or anything else that we've got going on, but it is affecting what we have. It's to an extent, it is affecting us economically, because the number of guide boats that you see that are running through town anymore, there are hardly any compared to what they used to be, even a decade ago. So from an economic standpoint, it's definitely impacting us. It's also impacting us from the fact that we spend millions and millions of dollars for fish restoration, fish passage, all these things to make sure that we can get fish up these rivers. And right at the mouth of the Cowlitz, it is, I mean, you could walk across the mouth of the Cowlitz. It's that shallow. And the chute that the fish have to go through is maybe 7 to 8 feet wide. And it's probably only 4 feet deep. And the pinnipeds and the eagles and everything that eats salmon is just having a heyday right there. And we're doing nothing to address that. So, well, the Corps is doing nothing to address it. So I appreciate you putting that in there, because that is something that is being impacted. There again, we're spending time, energy, and resources on all these things that we need to be addressing and fixing. And we have this one obstacle in the way, and it's always the same obstacle. And that's what's very frustrating. And so hopefully us speaking out in one voice and moving together to say, hey, something's got to change. We need to, at minimum, reevaluate the intent of what was put into place after the eruption. Is what they wanted to have happen, is that still happening? Are we still getting the benefit from whatever the original plan was? Are the taxpayers getting a benefit for their money? Reevaluate, Congress's orders to the Army Corps. Is that still something that is it necessary to continue to do things the way that they did them 40 years ago? Can we change the way that things need to be done? All these things need to be addressed, and it hasn't been addressed. And we're the ones that are left reacting to the decisions that they made. We're now having to spend over $1 million to fix a road because of a decision that they made. And so I do feel that us taking this step is the first step in us taking control of our own fate and what happens in our own backyards. So thank you for the time and energy that you put into this.
Thank you. I will mention, you spurred a thought in my brain. Ecology has identified a possible grant. I think you got an email. If we're going to act on that, taking control of our own environment, and if we want to better understand the Cowlitz River and how water is moving and not, and how the sand is accumulating, I think we need to do some kind of a geomorphology study as recommended. And if the county is interested and willing to put that application in there, you guys are the only ones in the community that can do so. But the COG would be happy to assist and help however we can. But if we can get that done in the next 2 weeks, I would encourage the county to explore that and try to make it happen.
Yeah, I forwarded that email when I got it from Shauna to Susan, so we can look into getting that done.
And I know Susan's got more on her plate than wherever she is than she can get done. So I hate to dump something else on her, but this is maybe a good opportunity to take some control of and knowledge of what we need, or create knowledge to help us make decisions.
Yeah, I agree.
And comment come in, it's pretty short notice, but Can we get this information available to the public at the upcoming county fair? Short notice, but would allow people to access the information in a public outreach. It is hard for people to attend meetings midday during the week.
We're happy to, I can get printed copies of some of the information we have. I'm not sure the COG's going to have a full-time booth there, but hopefully we can be DEM, or someone's going to have Department of Emergency Management, or someone will have a booth there. Maybe we can drop materials there and assist. But happy to put materials out if someone helps identify a location that would host those, because I don't have the capacity to man a booth the whole event.
Have DM, I would think that they wouldn't have any issue with that if they have a booth over there.
I think they're on the same page as we are in
Yeah.
desiring to see something happen here, so.
Okay. Is a public workshop, Ron, or?
You want to take this chair?
No, you just stay right there. You're in a good spot. So I think for all of us that have been hearing all of this and all the variety of agencies involved, it would be great if we had, I'll just use the word bibliography, I don't know, for the sources, and someone put together the variety of agencies, the Forest Service, the Corps of Engineers, and just put the sources with the
Contact type stuff?
yeah, the contact or the tagline, et cetera, to kind of put together. I know from us, there isn't any way that any one of us can get our hands on this, but if we have something like that, we divide the animal up and have different people look at things and kind of get informed. So you've probably got quite a resource of contacts and other thing that could be put together and just sent out as part of today's notes, whatever, so that we have a way of kind of tracking the variety of inputs and just the variety of agencies that are involved.
There's
Thank you.
20 agencies that signed the agreement to the Declaration of Cooperation for the Spirit Lake Collaborative. So there's 20 federal, state, and local agencies working on it today. So that gives you an idea of the challenge.
Right, and just in a simple fashion, we aren't really going anywhere if we don't have senator and funding and support from these. Again, when you lay that, basically all of that and all the agencies involved, it gives them a sense of the magnitude of, number one, those that are involved, and of course, from a political standpoint, either positive or negative exposure.
It is a public workshops. Did you? Yeah.
Well, good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Rader. I'm Jeff Wilson. I'm going to speak a little bit with a two-hat purpose. First, I'd like to offer up as the Port of Longview, one of three commissioners. I'm not necessarily speaking on behalf of the port, but I'm going to repeat statements that the port has already historically said. And in essence, the bullet points that you put together, kudos on that. I have no issues to add or correct, other than I'm going to report back tomorrow to, we have a commissioner meeting. My job is to kind of kiss and tell a little bit, and I'll bring the information back. We'll get a copy of that letter and discuss with the other two commissioners. I guess the importance of that. Now I got to put the other hat on. More than frustrating, the years we've seen this, as you mentioned, it's 46 years plus, it's kind of been going in the wrong direction. And I know the speed of government is slow, painstaking, but you have a killer team, and Mr. Fashing, I'm not going to compliment you too much, but you've never stopped. Your staff has never given up. And of course, that's the obligation that the point of the game we're at. I'm going to suggest as a senator that for the 19th district that we can't jump up and down enough with our federal delegation. This being a year of elections, sometimes you never know who's going to go back to the office and represent us. To me, it would never really matter a whole lot because that issue doesn't go away regardless of who wins an election or not. And the point I'm trying to say is, at any time that we need to do a delegation in person, continue to call the meetings, to kind of jump in front of that ship that may be sailing in the wrong direction, to stay in front of it, to get the attention. And I'm going to give you an example on a state level, how we have failed and how complicated it is. Commissioner Rader, you made it very clear. Great visual. I've done it. I have walked across the mouth of the Cowlitz River at certain tides from one shore to the other. Now, I got a little cold and waist deep at one time, but technically I did walk across from shore to shore. As a senator, I've struggled with Pinniped legislation, which is to balance. We all know that once was the smelt capital of the world, now is, catch me if you can. And it's been very frustrating. The state has legislated things to increase fees. Now you have to pay a license to dip net smelt, for example. The problem is, a couple of years ago when it first happened, you opened up the day, there were no smelt. Nobody caught anything, but you paid. You paid for the fee and license. So that's the return on the government licensing. It was not a very good investment for the citizens to buy the license, and then there's nothing to catch. Frustrated back to pinnipeds, I've dropped several legislations from budget provisos to direct legislation. Last year I had a bill on pinnipeds, and I thought it was one of the greatest ideas since sliced bread. It was a very simple bill. And it said, look, why don't we do an optional, completely voluntary plan when you go to renew your vessel or boat registration, any of the marine renewals, licensing, you can opt in to pay $1 or more if you wanted, and it would go to a specific fund. It definitely for pinniped, balance on the Cowlitz River. The bill was dropped and it immediately was hijacked and it went into Ways and Means. It was grabbed by the majority party and it was sent not to agriculture or natural resources where you think the bill would be heard. It went to Ways and Means. The chairman of Ways and Means, I'm not impugning, but the chairman was very clear, wrote me an email because I consistently contacted her and said, why won't you hear my bill? You got to get to the start. And I'm in Ways and Means, which is a very complicated committee, very voluminous with other issues. So it kind of put it to the bottom. And the response was, to me directly was, it is a complicated scheme. Sounds like a complicated scheme. Scheme, for those in other places of the state of Washington that don't understand our perils, obviously you commissioners are at the forefront of this, and then with issues like COG, the port, and citizens, how bad this is. But think of it like this. Just last year, Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I've been very much involved in this and very much the urging, they did try to set up some potential mechanical devices at the mouth to get, say, those wonderful sea lions, whether they're Stellar or California Jay, I don't care. It's a sea lion. And that shows the problem because, Commissioner Dahl, you hit that on the head too. When that river is so shallow, you don't do pinniped reduction normally. You can go to the Bonneville Dam all you want. You got real deep water. You get funding, get lots of attention. And those barges they use to haul out or to cull those predators works out fine. But when you get to the mouth of the Cowlitz, the Kalama River, and any other lower Columbia tributaries that are under the existing Marine Mammal Protection Act 120F permit authorized to WDFW to cull these things, these predators, it's like we're running in circles. They have to have special equipment because the water is, in fact, Commissioner Rader, as you said, it's so shallow, you can't even use normal mechanical means to cull the predation. And that doesn't mean, it doesn't matter whether a tribe is doing it, a state agency is doing it. It shows you how ridiculous it is. And one of the points on there is to dredge annually. I don't know if that's a great ask. But just think, all of these causes and affected, such as fish recovery, even if the mouth of the Cowlitz was dredged to a point where you could get a regular equipment in just regular flotation devices to do your business, which is fully licensed and approved. The federal government has given authorization to the state of Washington to take care of these things on the Cowlitz. And of course, the big question is how many have been removed on the Cowlitz River? Well, we all can spell 0 because that's the big number. So if we enact and can get to that point someday, the ribbon cutting of being heard and getting to that point, then in fact, that's a chance for success. But right now it's tough for me because I have to budget proviso special money for special equipment for a river that's sometimes walkable. Fish recovery it's ridiculous to think that we don't always consider the full system of fish recovery as a package. And if you're a fish, would you want to swim in the Cowlitz River at certain times? If you're a fish and you had gills, that would be like sandblasting. It's unhealthy, even for fish. And so I know that Commissioner Dahl, you were good. I loved your point on used to be a lake. Nature's done a lot of this. And that would be one of my priorities, is to get the federal agencies, Forest Service, Corps, and everybody on the path to get back to nature through a natural or a path that you create for a natural channel. Because I am afraid, I'm not terrified, but I'm afraid, as you mentioned, Commissioner Rader, this could hurt or kill people someday. There's no doubt when you get a massive sediment retention, it's just not, you do that. You don't just keep building up your sandbox. It's your house. You still have to have outlets and drainage. And I am so sorry. If somebody want to grab that, I'm going to grab that. That's me. I was hoping it was Commissioner Steve Farrell, and I could blame him for calling me at the meeting, but I apologize, and Ashley, thank you. So the point being is that should be the #1 goal, but not let them off the hook. I do fear the federal government using any chance they can to run away. I mean, who wouldn't want to get out of this responsibility? So you are so well received and respected on your leadership from your senator. I mean, I look at you three, two of you today, you've always been cognizant of this, open, and you've led a lot of the charge. And to me, I wanted to make sure to convey publicly how much I appreciate you all for that. But that's the path that I would personally advocate for. Naturally, as a port commissioner, we've complained for years, we've been on record, that the Cowlitz and the Toutle River, it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving that you don't want. When your sediment builds up at your upper berths, berth 9, 8, 7, 6, it doesn't matter. When it affects the port, it's right back into the local taxpayer dollars. It's the local expense of your $1 million road that we're being victimized. And we have to come up with our budgets because of the potential, maybe the lack of results or proper planning for a federal volcano. And we've always been on the receiving end. So, I can't applaud you more. I didn't plan on coming here to tell you how wonderful you are, but in fact, you are. And I think that the keynote is that we need to get that river someday back to being a river instead of a culvert or a sediment pipeline. And we spin our wheels and we just build it bigger and bigger. And pretty soon the dam is the Eiffel Tower or something like that. I mean, we have to get well past that for naturalization back of the river, of the days when some of us remember swimming and fishing and recreating, and we had dependable flood control. A lot of citizens weren't so maybe concerned about, there's a sandbar here, it's eroding at Castle Rock, and these things that are so important. So this is a long speech to say thank you. And I'm certainly open for questions, but I work for you. Last time I checked, I'm not your boss. You are still the boss. Senators, legislators serve the district, and we are also at your bidding, what you would like us to do in the state. You've always been receptive. So any bill ideas or whatnot, it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as a Republican or Democrat Cowlitz River and Mount St. Helens. That's got to go completely off the table. Yet we are subject to elections. Now, who goes back to Congress or not? Listen, I'm prepared to work with whomever, and I know you guys are too, but Thank you for not making it political. Thank you for making it structural on the health and safety. And not just for everybody that lives on the river and us on the lower end of the port that suffers economically because of this. It's more than us people. It's getting the fish back. It's getting elk that want to go to the shores and, you know, that. So thank you. And I will take any questions if you want. Bill, good work.
Yeah. You know, one of the reasons they give for dredging, I'm the more I've learned about, people tend to think of dredging like they did in the 80s when they just pulled that and they threw that up all up there and it causes a problem. But it's not that way anymore. They use it on the Mississippi. They use it on different rivers to maintain the river, the health, and they have ways of making it so it keeps the river in a path that's healthy for all. And they always tell us, well, the cost is so prohibitive. But I think if you were to have continually dredging and brought this Cowlitz back to where a lot of that cost would probably be offset by the increase in salmon, the increase of commercial of your guides being able to take people out, the increase in, you just see other benefits on the other side. And they don't always look at that side. They just look at the cost of where we're going to get this money. Well, I think it's one of those things, and I don't know that it will cover everything, but you're going to get some benefit back for that for our people. And you're not always having to deal with the side banks and all this other stuff. So I too appreciate the fact that we got dredging in that
Yeah.
package.
It's important to note that dredging has become, if you triggered me, Commissioner. Dredging is a hot topic. As a port commissioner, the Lower Columbia reports are under duress right now from the federal government as to the mouth of the Columbia, for example. There's a proposal to build a dredge spoil bins where they dredge at the mouth of the Columbia and then they put it in certain bin areas, and they wanted the Lower Columbia River ports to pay for that. It's a tune of millions per port, potentially. So we're arguing, the argument starts with the federal government. What's in a word? Well, we think this is part of the maintenance world. It's maintenance. That's your problem. It's a federal highway, and don't you hit us with all the capital dreams that you may have for your dredging schemes at the deal. And that battle is being fought right now, and I'm happy to say I believe we're going to prevail on that. But so dredging is essential, but upriver, the contributors to the lack of a better Columbia River fish enhancement project. For example, this Kamania hatchery is closed. I mean, who closes a hatchery when you don't have enough fish anyway? And I know I'm gone sideways, Mr. Chairman, and I do apologize for that. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about fish, whether they even swim past the Cowlitz, a fish is still part of that system. And so I can't wait for nature to be back. And, you know, we film, we go up there and we camp again and do all these things again, the quality of life from people to animals and the whole system. But your fight, we're in it with you. And if there's anything that we can do, say the Port of Longview and the state legislature, I love the fact that none of you three are shy. And that's exactly why I appreciate you.
I tell people this story in Lions Park in Castle Rock. It's just that little park as you're headed out Huntington, you know, and it's by the river. And I enjoy that once in a while. And I watch people are always on the other side and they'll have their poles in the river. And I think I've seen maybe twice somebody's caught something. And have you ever seen people score a touchdown in a football game? It's like a football dance when they actually catch something because it's so rare.
Yeah. I will be one more comment. May I allow, commissioners? I know it's complicated. That's why there's guys like Bill Fashing and COG. Let me give you the example. When you put a bullet on there to say annual dredging, there's a cause and effect I'd like to bring up, for example. If you remember when Rydell brought their dredge up, after the mountain blew, and they dredged the Cowlitz, and it was a good thing. But we still have logistics issue that maybe we want to consider into the bullet points, which is infrastructure bill. For example, you can get most dredges underneath the Cowlitz way, or the bridge, or I'm sorry, out on Tennant Way. But don't forget there's a railroad bridge, an old cantilever bridge. This thing's older than I am. And that's an issue too, because it's a privately owned bridge by the railroads. And is that going to interfere in the logistics? That's something we should tag. Because if you do want to dredge annually, I mean, I'm all in favor of it. Please, when do you start? But you get into logistics, what are you getting underneath that bridge? And if you open up that rail bridge, I know that the Port of Longview, due to our industrial rail corridor expansion, other things, we always want to know if that bridge is going to be there. And if you open it, can you close it? And I'd like to see almost try to add a little bit more on the transportation infrastructure to this list. Because if I was the railroad, I would say, well, I don't know if I want to spend $600 out of my own railroad wallet to pay for my bridge. You're the one that wants to go underneath it. You pay for it. I don't want to get into those discussions. What I want to do is have those discussions noted that it's a topic, because anybody can start at the mouth of the Cowlitz and you can sidewind in your way up and do such despite soil or the dredge placement. But we do need to consider that bridge. You know, as I came over here, you look at the Allen Street and you see all the logs underneath and stuff. That's not going to take the bridge out. But everything clears the way for, you see the little log jam on one of the piers. It would be the eastern pier of the bridges. It's big. These things are part of nature. But in order to improve nature, you may have to swim a dredge up, and that's going to mean getting underneath that bridge, the railroad bridge. And if we don't have a backup plan, for example, and a contingency, because a lot of customers in Cowlitz County can only go so many days without rail service, for example. Heaven forbid that log mess up here does something critical to the railroad bridge or a dredge opening, or so you see what I'm getting at. We have to have a plan B. I don't want them to get off the hook for that. I know I went really far from talking about a mountain. Here I am all the way down there now talking about a single railroad bridge, Commissioner, but
Well,
thank you for hearing my point on that.
I expect you to get to railroads at some point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, gee, thanks.
I'm giving you a bad time.
Thank you.
It's a good point.
You brought up a couple of points that I think need us to dive into a little bit further. I'm very grateful that you're involved in the Fish and Game and what's going on there. That organization is a fiasco right now. It is, for lack of a better term, it's a banana republic on that board right now. But I had an interesting conversation with somebody who is intimately involved in the hoof rot situation. And a point that they brought up was, I said, why are you guys not getting involved? I was talking to an animal rights activist group. I said, why are you not involved? Why are you guys not speaking out about the fact that there are hundreds of elk dying every single year from this disease, and you're crickets, nothing? Why is that? And the answer that they gave me was pretty telling. And that was, it's too political for us to get involved. And the point that you brought up about politics is very interesting because, once again, the Fish and Game Department, let's just take the Pinniped program that they came up, where they're going to be able to cull 440 a year or whatever that federal program is. If you look down into what that bill says, they can't take them out of tributaries. They have to come out of the Columbia. They have to take one at a time. They have to bring them on board, do research, take them and send them somewhere else. I mean, so by the time you're looking at what they're going to be able to do, they might be able to get one a day, you know, one pinniped culled out of the herd a day. And it's indicative of what our federal agencies do. We're going to come up with a program that ostensibly solves the problem. You could say you could kill 2,000 of those things a year, but if the protocol that you have to follow is not conducive to being efficient and effective for the program to work, it doesn't matter. It's just like, for example, the cougar situation that we have going on right now. There are people sighting cougars in local communities, in urban areas during the day, in the middle of the day, right? And so what's the answer that the Fish and Game gives? Oh, well, we'll increase the number of tags. Okay, this goes back to people not understanding how things work. You can increase the tags to 2,000 a day, and you are not going to reduce the number of cougars that are killed. It is the issue is how those cougars are hunted. That's what makes the difference. It's not increasing the tags. So when we look at the processes that the government agencies institute, it's nothing but politics. It's not about solving the problem at all. And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing 20 different agencies that we have to deal with to solve this issue. I sit on a board that we talk about spending millions and millions and millions of dollars for fish passage and salmon recovery, and yet we don't have any single, we have no salmon beds from here to Castle Rock because of the sediment. They can't lay their eggs in that, and the eggs that are laid in it are covered by sediment and they get killed. They can't, they don't hatch. So all these programs, it's fluff. And we have to get through, we have to fight through the fluff to get to the issue of the problem and solving the problem. And we're not going to let up.
Commissioner Rader, it's nice to know that others besides me get triggered easily. It's important because, and I meant that with all due respect, sir, and that's because it takes leaders that won't quit and understands the potential skullduggery of the politics, the pollution of our governments is what ruins this. We as doers and community local leaders, we can get an action plan, but that's something I'm offering because I work in the minority in a place called Olympia, Washington. That doesn't mean I give up. It means we have to work harder. And so this is the same uphill battle that we do need to stand in front of who's ever holding the federal seats or the governments, the agencies, and to get in front of them with meetings, workshops, go see them, they see us. Whatever we can do, pull out all the stops. Because I'm a lot like you. Doesn't it get old after a while of just complaining about a Captain Obvious problem or problems, and yet the dog continues to chase its tail? So, God bless you guys. I've been a big fan because of your strength, but there's strength in numbers. I don't think anybody around here that is not going to want to hang out and be your best friend on these issues. And I appreciate you opening us up. I'll do whatever you need to have done, of course, and I'm open to good ideas, except, of course, open fire shoot sessions. We got to be careful on hunting and reduction that way. But being creative, as you said, I think there's a way we can. The ridiculousness of the culling. I have been to the Bonneville Dam on 2 instances. I've toured that where it has to be soft, cute, and cuddly. Nobody wants to relish and, oh boy, we killed something today. That was never the intention. We've got so political on that where you couldn't do it within the public eye. It had to be done softly, and it's almost like they get interviewed and then there's an autopsy. And you're right, it's incredibly expensive. We never get to those numbers that we were allowed to do. And the numbers were thought of, as you said, they weren't just picked arbitrarily. They were numbers that dealt with fish scientific management of recovery. Pinnipeds rule. They're not even native to some extent in this area. And when they swam up to the barrier dams 70 miles away or whatever years ago, boy, did my phone ring off the hook. And you're right. So I've been addressing, those fisher groups and those outdoor people. Why are you getting more upset? There's, all these clubs and associations. I've tried to trigger them, and thus even some of my bills to do. So I'm there for you because you've been there for me, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Let me catch up on some comments here that are coming in. The Spirit Lake to Cowlitz River Collaborative has been beneficial to bring attention to the sediment issues of Mount St. Helens that we are addressing today. However, it is not funded to be able to expand its public outreach that could help us bring attention to our federal representatives. I feel it could be money well spent making our local citizens local lobbyists. We need local outreach people. We need local outreach. People care, they just don't know what they can do. We have over 90,000 people in our county. If we can get 10% politically alive, we could bring attention to our concerns, but we need local accessible outreach. In the current Corps budget, they have annual allocation 6 to 9 million for dredging the Cowlitz. Question, where is this money being spent annually? All of our state agencies need to step up and be more involved with the U.S. Army Corps and U.S. Forest Service decisions that we have so much, that have so much effect to our state natural resources. Okay, I'm caught up.
Was that from a variety of people? Sorry.
Mark.
Okay. I thought so.
He's probably told you all that anyways.
Are you ready for public comment now?
Yeah.
Great. My name's Wendy Kozlowski. I was pleased to hear that COG has been focusing on the issue of Spirit Lake. I didn't know that. Even when I Googled Spirit Lake and I got the 2018 reports from the various agencies, nothing was mentioned of COG. So somehow we need to know that. I could not read the 10 points that were up there, so I can't reference those. But I wanted to just tell you a little bit. As a resident of Longview, I live in one of the 7 communities below Spirit Lake. 3 generations of our family do. The author of the Spirit Lake's spooky book actually features Spirit Lake as a strange and mysterious lake. I think it's true. After reading the 2018 reports by Forest Service and Corps of Engineers, it really does seem spooky. So many unknowns since the eruption 45 years ago. I grew up in Washington, hearing my grandfather, my father-in-law, and my husband, who worked on dams construction, Grand Coulee, Boulder, Lower Monumental. They discuss things like cofferdams, penstocks, turbines, spillways, and the amazing strength of concrete. Surely the Corps is poised to secure this problem at Spirit Lake and the outlet tunnel, the 1.5 miles that were 12-foot diameter, and now they're upheaved to 6 in spots. What is the problem? There's an immediacy that's needed. Is it money? We've been discussing it, haven't we? You've heard a lot about the cost. The cost. The Corps built Grand Coulee Dam. It created an economy. It created jobs. It creates energy to this day. It created towns. Politics, it was mentioned, is a real stumbling block. Why? Well, because we're rabble, right? We all have different ideas, and we advocate and then we give up sometimes. But after 40 years of living in the shadow of Mount St. Helens, I'm shocked that we haven't solved the engineering problem of that dam yet. My favorite is the cofferdam tool to strengthen weak soil and anchor the massive deep foundations required to support the weight of a dam. What if we can harness the outflow for additional hydropower? We are living also on the ring of fire. Venezuela just had a disastrous earthquake. California is having bigger seismic events. The St. Helens area registers up to 20 seismic events each month. It seems time is of the essence. Action for the sake of our 7 communities in the wake of Spirit Lake. Failure is disaster, economic, in lives. What are we going to do about it? And I can see that there are people trying to help the issue, but we have to speed it up. I appreciate your focus of getting people together. The University of Washington touts its knowledge. The School of Engineering has a concrete boat contest every year for its students. I bet those students could solve this problem. Why not have a contest for the civil engineering students? They care at the UW, and the challenge could be met. The cost could not be too much for us to bear, to recognize ingenuity and creativity in our engineering students. That's just one small suggestion. But we all know that in America, it's our way to solve problems. The fish and wildlife want to see what's happening with nature at the lake and in the log mat. Well, that's great, but what are we going to do about the risk to, as Steve said, the lives and the economy and the port? It sounds to me like our 6 rivers are getting filled up. The Columbia is filled up. Where's the water going to go? Across the towns. So we are in it together. And I do believe that focus, not just monetary, but creative ingenuity. My grandpa worked putting concrete in Grand Coulee Dam. Ron's dad was an iron worker. Ron himself has worked on civil projects, the nuclear power plants. We have the ingenuity. Those problems are probably solved on paper, and they haven't been given the chance to actually put people to work. We must do that. And thank you for your efforts so far.
And first off, I really want to say that I appreciate all of the studying and all of the effort that you guys have put into this subject in many, many ways. But there is one issue that no one has brought up. And I think it's important considering, as we all know, government works slowly, but nature works sometimes very fast. And that is evacuation. Do we have a plan in case something does happen that we can at least save some of the people downstream? Do we have evacuation plans for our city? Because I've never heard, no one's mentioned what would happen if, because we're not ready now, and it's going to be a while. Do we have a plan now in force so that people know how to go, where to go, and we're not all bottlenecked up? We need that. We need that now. We don't need, I mean, we don't have time. So we need that part now. Thank you.
I can tell you, Flo, that in conversations that we've had with Scott, our emergency management director, that is something that they are working on. We do have a plan with regards to tsunami routes. The plan, and I'm really summarizing this and making it and simplifying it. The plan is to get to high ground. This topic is something that Scott is talked about, and he is also looking at part of his the plan that he's going to be presenting to us. I think it's in August when they come back or sometime. Is public outreach with regards to an evacuation route and what we need to do should that happen, and also the communicating the disaster that's taken place. This is coming, that type of stuff. So it is something that our emergency management is aware of and working on. Yeah.
I haven't spoken for a while, so I might be creaky. My name's Amy Boyd. I'm an environmental manager at the Port of Longview. And I've been working with the COG and several other local entities in a Rivers Need Room work group. We've called it that because, as you said earlier, the Cowlitz will not function well as a culvert. So how are we going to achieve a successful, healthy, economically successful community with a river that isn't as flashy, doesn't cause as much flood risk? How do we help build that kind of community? Our little work group decided on a catchphrase, a mission statement of a place where we can live, work, and play. And so those are the goals of that work group, is to help facilitate that at the local level, because we've recognized internally as local agencies that the federal agencies are not going to probably bring the dollars or the people to our community in the way that we need them to. And so we've been trying to brainstorm ways in which each of our individual organizations can bring resources to the table to help build our own resiliency, to be the leaders in our own community, which has been why it's been very exciting to see you talking about it. And I did want to stand up and just say, this is what this group is doing. And to support what Bill said earlier, you know, there are some grants that are available sometimes only to counties. So if that is something that you can delegate the COG to work for on your behalf, my co-chair, Shauna Hanisch-Kirkbride for Rivers Need Room Group has been very supportive of trying to make sure that that is prepped and ready to go. And there are two kind of key pushes that we are looking at in that work group in and alongside the work that each individual organization is doing. The first is we think that there needs to be a characterization of the physical attributes of the river. So looking at the area that our local agencies can affect, so downstream of our federal partners, we would like to characterize the banks and the river itself so that we can figure out where is the strongest return on investment if a project is done. Where would we take sediment off the bank so that there's less risk of flooding or erosion for private property? Where would dredging be advantageous? You know, not just dredge the whole thing, but where would it be advantageous? Where could we increase the flow rate so that it would help keep sediment from settling in certain areas? The other piece that we really want to do, and we have a couple of partners identified that may be able to do this, is to do a comprehensive community outreach and planning effort so that we can talk to the communities directly about who knows where flooding is bad. We already have the comprehensive flood management plan, which has a lot of information in it, but we also want to talk to those community members directly about actions in addition to just risk mitigation. What actions would the community like to see happen? Would they support having happen? Because we recognize as local agencies that if we don't have community support, we will not be doing projects. So I'm an environmental manager at the port. I obviously have a little bit of technical background in rivers, which is part of why I'm part of this group. But also the port does have an interest in seeing that our community is strong and healthy because that's where our employees come to our workplace for. And also we're at the very bottom of the system. If we see flooding that affects the upper rivers, it's going to affect, yes, our workforce, but also directly the economic activities that can occur at the port. So there's a lot of desire to see this work happen. The difficulty has been getting funding. And that's where we really need support from local leaders, is to say, yes, we can apply for these funds that are sometimes available at the state or at the federal level. And we also need to make sure that we show why it's relevant to those entities, which is why it's so important to have a lot of people speaking with the same words, which is why these bullet points are really helpful. And Ashley is one of our external affairs people, and she may have some ideas about the fair and using our booth to help those as well. So that's all I have. I'm happy to answer questions, but I mean, I'm not really a public speaker. This is unusual for me. I sit in the corner, so.
She's not quiet, but she sits in the corner.
Yes, exactly. So, but thank you for taking actions on these.
Thank you.
I'm slow.
That's okay.
My name is Al Pifley. A lot of you know me from community service and interaction. I worked on the local emergency planning committee. I'm a professional in emergency management. I've worked for the Pacific Northwest Economic Region, and I mention them because they've held regional, I'll get it out, regional training exercises that enabled agencies that were stovepiped to get together to talk about a disaster, much like the natural disaster that happened 40 years ago. And those are really critical exercises because they include quite often not just for responders, but also all of the utilities departments in the local area. Unfortunately, because there are so many distributed utilities, that it's hard to get a lot of training occurring with the state, federal, and local agencies. But they're really critical. Let's face it, water we can't do without, period. Power you can't do without. We're totally dependent upon it. Those agencies are very sparsely employed labor-wise. So you have very few resources to pull from in a really big emergency. And when it's a really big emergency, like Mount St. Helens rupturing again, it's going to be quite a while before even the state shows up. So you have to have a command center that's got full situational awareness as much as possible. And you've got to have a command center that is willing to set up a system to accept outside help almost immediately. And one of the biggest problems that they've had nationally is getting people ID'd to get into the danger zone to help people in the immediate response and in the longer term to try to recover. We've seen that here already. And you've made some very good points about people versus animals or stuff. People are the most important service that we need to serve. And they have to be not just the victims, the people who respond have to be coordinated in training, special training, for situations that are just totally abnormal. We have a lot of retirement communities around here. We've got some special facilities. And I know it's political, but when 9/11 occurred, I worked on the critical structure planning for the national template. I have not seen something like that here in Cowlitz County. I think it's possible to establish it with Larry. Larry Hembry is still
Scott Neves is taking over.
is he gone?
Larry's still there, but he'll be retiring this year, but Scott Neves is the one in charge at DEM now.
Anyway, I discussed that with him because we're at what we call a choke point here. We've got a critical main line, we've got the river to deal with, and we've got our own local rivers to deal with. If you've got this master plan, which I will call a strategic level, then you have a baseline to work off of to train the people I was talking about to come, and especially the first responders, the utilities, to be able to handle it together. You can't wait till it happens again to make the assignments. You have to have strong leaders in each of those areas I'm talking about. And I've been in enough regional exercises to see massive failures in just coordination between leadership. You're all in chaos. It's a huge situation, and it's not going to go away in 2 or 3 days. It's going to persist, in this case, from 40 years ago, exactly the way you described it. I'm amazed that the community didn't pressure more the Corps of Engineers to properly design the Alden Street Bridge and figure out how to clean up enough of the debris that's still here to allow for another surge, which is, I'm assuming, is the topic primarily of Spirit Lake. I have relatives that died there. The couple that died in the RV was in my family. They searched for days for people. But again, I think this emergency plan that the lady brought up, the evacuation plan, is not obvious to me. The other thing I complained about, I'm going to put my R in, they canceled the sirens because they said everybody's got a cell phone and you're going to get an emergency message. Well, that's cool if you're carrying your cell phone or it's even working. But there's hundreds and thousands of people that are out and about. And when it happens, they're not going to have time to run home to get their phone to find out what's going on. We've got to figure out a better alert system that covers people even who don't have a phone. So those are my observations. Quite often the command center will be formed out of the Hall of Justice, and the Sheriff's Department probably will be the lead because Larry reported to the sheriff. They need equipment pre-staged to operate with the state and the federal. Then we've got we're lucky we got an airport here. And there needs to be thought when the National Guard shows up from Fort Lewis in helicopters of how we're going to interface with them, because aerial resources will be very valuable. RPVs, helicopters, planes, satellite. All that has to be thought out. It doesn't have to be solved, but the resources have to be identified and how we're going to use them. The sheriff, the hospital. And there's 3 zones in emergency planning. The hot zone is close to wherever the disasters occurred, near Mount St. Helens. And this is where the county is important because Kelso is not going to do it and Longview is not going to do it. We have to think about all those people who are remotely living out here. And we have to plan for resources that are mobile enough to get them where they're needed, where the people are. And it just takes a lot of thought. And it takes a group of people who are not politically motivated to plan out resources so that our people who are trying to help have everything they need as close as possible. And yeah, the probability is not huge that St. Helens is going to erupt again. And some of you were on my email about it. The lady who gave the prophecy lives in Iowa. I don't even think she knows anybody who lives here. I don't know when it'll happen, but I do know from following the seismic information after the first eruption that things were still unsettled. I have not checked the geological survey information to see what the seismic activity is now. But recently, Adams became very active. They're right next to each other. And like the Ring of Fire was said, the earthquakes are happening more often. And St. Helens is our albatross. So that's it. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
I just have a really quick thought. I've heard of this situation for quite a while now, and I'm just so grateful that somebody, that people have stepped up and are doing something, because I don't think that this is something that is not going to happen. I believe that this is something that is going to happen. And what I find is interesting is it all comes down to politics and money. And I find that it's interesting that after the fact, all sorts of money will pour in. Way more money than what we would be spending now. And I find that very ironic. And I just wanted to, as I was sitting there listening to all this, I would just thinking of the quote, the saddest, I'm going to slaughter it, but the saddest words of tongue or pen are the words it might have been.
That's true. I think, Maggie, if you think back in the day, didn't he secure just under 100 billion or something like that for this area? Because it had to be 9 something because somebody wasn't willing to go 100. But that's a true statement. Anything else? I want to give everybody a chance to speak, and we keep on top of this. We'll have workshops down the road, but we've been going over an hour, and I don't want to abuse anybody's time. We all good? Okay. Bill, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I think you got a little bit of marching orders, so
I think we have a little
continue
direction.
working. Okay, perfect. Anything else, gang? Once again, thanks for your time today. We appreciate it. Okay, we will adjourn.